Welcome to all those attending today's ICAHD UK webinar. We are pleased to again have an audience composed of people not only from the UK, but also with international representation. You're all most welcome. Since 2004, ICAHD has represented ICAHD in Jerusalem. ICAHD has always mobilized around the demolition or Israel's demolition of Palestinian homes and the forced displacement, the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. But now we find ourselves reacting to Israel's genocide in Gaza, which is rapidly spreading into the West Bank. All of this, which really started with such intensity in October 2023. At present, we are warning of Palestinians being locked into small, disconnected Bantustans under two-state apartheid as Israel moves to normalize the facts on the ground that it has created. ICAHD has a different view for the future, as does our speaker. It's a future where everyone who lives between the river and the sea can reside with equal rights in a democratic society. We've seen how governments have failed to meet their legal obligations. Human rights and international law are not enforced, and we are in a period where the law of the jungle prevails. Governments continue to remain complicit. We see this especially with the continued arms trade with Israel, and Israel's just able to act with impunity on so many levels. So it's against that background that we enter the webinar for today. I would like to call upon Awad Abdelfattah, who is a Palestinian citizen in 48. These are Palestinians who live within the state of Israel and who are Israeli citizens. Their situation is often neglected in reference to the Palestinian struggle for liberation, but it's something we must all understand. Awad is going to speak to us about October the 7th, Gaza, and the internal front, Palestinian citizens in Israel under genocide, repression, and decolonization. Awad is a political writer and the former general secretary of the Balad political party, which aims to transform the state of Israel into a democracy for all its citizens, irrespective of national or ethnic identity. Awad lives in the Galilee and is the co-founder of the One Democratic State campaign. Over the years, ICAHD UK has had a whole variety of interactions with him. And so we very much look forward to what he has to say to us today. Awad Abdelfattah, will you please speak to us now? Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you all, and good evening, everybody. Pleased to be with you today, and thank you very much. As Israel's genocidal war on Gaza unfolded after October 7, and as millions mobilized globally in opposition, a recurring question surfaced in international debates. Why have Palestinian citizens of Israel not risen up as they did at aerial historical junctures during Land Day in 1976, the First and Second Intifada in 1987 and 2000, or the Unity Uprising of May 2021? This question, often posed in good faith, risks misreading the present moment unless it is grounded in an analysis of settler-colonial power and the condition Israel has deliberately engineered inside the Green Line. Palestinian citizens of Israel are the survivors of the brutal ethnic cleansing carried out by the Zionist movement in 1948. Together with their relatives, now numbering millions of refugees, They were the first victims of this foundational crime. They are victims not only of the Jewish character of the state, but also of its so-called democracy, which was made possible only through the uprooting of the Palestinian majority from within the 1948 borders. Israel's democracy, therefore, is not merely ethno-nationalist. It is structurally violent and genocidal. The absence of mass revolt today is not a sign of acquiescence, political retreat, or fragmentation. It is the outcome of an unprecedented convergence of repression and structural dependency. Since 1948, Israel has systematically expropriated Palestinian land, 93% of what they had, dismantled agricultural and economic bases, and blocked autonomous developments in Arab towns. This was not incidental. It was designed to sever Palestinians from independent means of livelihood and force their incorporation into Israel's economy as a dependent labor force stripped of collective rights. Over decades, land theft and underdevelopment were repaired with economic integration on deeply unequal terms, transforming employment, education, housing, and basic services into mechanisms of control. Education, in particular, functions as a central tool of domination. Palestinian history and narrative were erased from curricula in order to produce generations stripped of national attachment and belonging. Ironically, while these colonial policies were unfolding, even during the period of military rule from 1948 to 1966, Western governments celebrated Israel as a model democracy. Even after the genocide in Gaza, this position has barely shifted, exposing once again their moral and political bankruptcy and colonial mentality. Sorry. After October 7, this colonial structure enabled the state to weaponize precarity on a massive scale. Jobs, scholarships, professional licenses, and institutional access became tools of political discipline. Under conditions of genocide, revolt does not merely expose individuals to repression. It places entire families and communities already deprived of land security and protection at risk of collective punishment. Silence in this context is not consent, it is enforced. This enforced silence constitutes an internal front of Israel's genocidal war in Gaza and an integral component of the settler-colonial regime governing all of historic Palestine. October 7 did not mark a rupture in Israel's treatment of Palestinian citizens. It marked the removal of the last liberal veneer. What followed was the open alignment of internal repression with a genocidal logic that treats Palestinians everywhere as an enemy population whose political presence, moral voice, and collective identity must be suppressed or eliminated. Even before October 7, Palestinian citizens of Israel lived under a system of conditional citizenship embedded in a state defined by Jewish supremacy, political expression, affirming Palestinian identity, commemoration of the Nakba, opposition to occupation, or solidarity with Gaza was routinely criminalized through laws on incitement, loyalty, and security. Surveillance, selective policing, and institutional discrimination steadily narrowed the space of legitimate Palestinian politics. Citizenship functioned not as a guarantee of equality, but as a revocable status, contingent on silence and compliance. After October 7, the system entered an emergency phase. The genocidal assault in Gaza was accompanied by a sweeping campaign to criminalize empathy itself. Hundreds of Palestinian citizens were arrested, interrogated, suspended from work, or expelled from education institutions for social media posts, expressing grief for Gaza civilians or condemning massacres. Under expansive counterterrorism interpretations, mourning became suspect and solidarity became evidence collapsing the distinction between dissent and security threat. Civilian institutions were rapidly conscripted into this repression. Universities, hospitals, schools, and workplaces functioned as extensions of the security apparatus. Palestinian students were suspended, organizations banned, and disciplinary procedures initiated for political speech. Medical workers, teachers, and public sector employees were investigated or dismissed following anonymous complaints. These were not exceptional wartime measures, but tools of collective discipline, classic mechanisms of settler-colonial governance in moments of intensified violence. At the same time, the long-standing crisis of organized crime in Palestinian towns continued unabated, exposing another pillar of colonial control. Hardly a day passes we treated as marginal observers, but as an internal threat whose silencing was essential to sustaining genocide. Yet Palestinians in Israel are not merely objects of repression. Since the 1970s, they have repeatedly broken the barrier of fear and entered new phases of defiance. Over decades, they have come to play a central role in confronting and decolonizing the settler-colonial regime from within. By insisting on political visibility, even during a genocidal war, they challenge the ideological foundation of Zionism, which is the claim that a state built on ethnic supremacy can be democratic. Through legal struggle, political mobilization, cultural production, and grassroots organizing, Palestinians inside Israel have transformed the internal space of the settler state into a site of decolonial confrontation. They exposed that the issue is not occupation alone, but a colonial structure governing all of Palestine. Crucially, they act as a living bridge between fragmented Palestinian geographies, rejecting the colonial logic that separates Gaza from the Galilee, citizens from refugees, and 1948 from 1967, though this is not yet crystallized into a unified pan-Palestinian strategy. This trajectory reached a climax in the mass uprising of 2021. Today, under a fascistic and openly genocidal regime, Israel seeks to strip these achievements of their meaning. Palestinians in Israel face a stark choice imposed by the state: abandon collective political demands or confront intensifying repression. Israeli officials have gone further, openly threatening a new Nakba, threats Palestinian leaders take seriously. In response, Palestinian intellectuals, academics, and activists are engaged in urgent debates. How can resistance be sustained when demonstrations are restricted and criminalized? Some advocate excessive pragmatism, including participation in Israeli governments to mitigate repression and secure resources. Others argue that cautious survival and steadfastness, sumud, are necessary. But still others insist that the moment demands internationalization of the struggle, deeper coordination across the Green Line and in exile, and the principled alliances with anti-colonial Israelis through popular struggle inside Palestine and globally, including PDS. The One Democratic State campaign exemplifies this latter orientation, despite immense obstacles. Beyond long-standing challenges, Palestinians now face, after the genocide, existential and moral questions. How can coexistence be imagined with a genocidal society within a shared polity? Palestinian citizens of Israel confront this question daily in workplaces and public spaces. This question is not rhetorical. It is the moral and political starting point for any vision that seeks to transcend the current order. Coexistence, as envisioned here, is not between oppressor and oppressed within a colonial hierarchy, but between equals in a democratic and decolonized polity. It requires dismantling the colonial Zionist structure of domination. Paradoxically, it is precisely this genocidal moment that has made the vision of one democratic state more urgent and morally compelling than ever before. Gaza has exposed the impossibility of managing the conflict, the futility of partition, and the inherent violence of Zionism and apartheid. It has also reawakened global consciousness around interconnected struggles for justice and the need for a fair global order to replace the existing brutal neoliberal land and colonial one. The path ahead will be long and will demand profound sacrifices. Yet history is moving. The old colonial order is in visible decline, and Zionism is increasingly exposed as an organic component of a global system of domination, repression, and exploitation, one that endangers Palestinians and Jews alike by binding their futures to permanent war. In the face of genocide, imagining and organizing for one democratic state is itself an act of resistance. It links the Palestinian struggle to global movements against racism, apartheid, and colonial neoliberal domination, insisting that justice in Palestine is inseparable from justice everywhere. Despite immense pressures, Palestinian citizens of Israel remain central to any decolonial future. Their struggle destabilizes Zionism at its ideological core, bridges fragmented Palestinian geographies, and exposes the unity of the regime across Gaza, the West Bank, and inside Israel. By refusing erasure, politically, morally, and historically, they keep open the horizon of a shared future. Let us together chart this liberatory horizon and carry forward the struggle for a secular, democratic, and inclusive state in all of Palestine, a homeland for all its inhabitants, grounded in equality, justice, and freedom, and free from domination, oppression, and fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Awad, especially coming to speak to us after such a very, very busy day. Now, we'd like to invite our audience to put questions into the chat line, and then Mary will read them out and present them to Awad to answer. While people do that, Awad, you did refer to the fact that this was the largest gathering of Palestinians gathering together for this demonstration on this day of general strike that you attended in Sakhnin. Can you give us an approximate number of attendees, those who took part in the march, and were there speeches? Can you explain a little bit more about what happened today, please?
Yeah, I mean, today the estimate is that around 100,000 people. And this is really the biggest one in the history of the Palestinian struggle in Israel. There were no speeches for the first time that leaders would not march in the front of the demonstration. They were just walking with the people. Why? Because really the uprising, this is what was described by many people, that it was like a semi-uprising today or in the last few days. It was started by the people, not by the leaders. Mm-hmm. And that this is what distinguishes this demonstration or the general strike that was staged today. And even in Sakhnin itself, there has been a strike over the last 3 days. In fact, what happened is that a businessman was subjected to routinely shooting because, you know, the criminals threaten businessmen and ask them for protection. So he refused to do so. So then the criminals started shooting all the businesses in Sakhnin. And that was very horrifying. And the police was not intervening. And we have been crying out for the last 15 years to intervene and stop this organized crime. and they are not listening to us. And it has become clear for everybody here that this policy is deliberate and it is done by design, and that just want to weaken us and to force people to immigrate. And actually, thousands of people already have left the country simply because they fear for their life. So this is, in fact, what is going to happen, because this is a juncture in the history of the Palestinian struggle. We assess that this a beginning of a new phase of a struggle. Over the last 2 years, Palestinians have been, as I said in my presentation, have been banned from expressing openly their solidarity with Gaza, and even to organize against the organized crime. Today, by the way, even the demonstration was first banned by the police, and then we went to the court, and they thought and they felt that if they don't allow us to march, there will be maybe violence. So at the end, they surrendered to the demand, and we marched today as I said.
Wow, thank you for that description. Now, there's been some questions put in the chat line. Mary, have they been answered already by Awad, or does something remain? Some questions remain.
Well, there's a couple that about the demonstration today. One is what's the subject and the demands of the demonstration today in Sakhnin, and also generally how have the Israeli authorities been reacting to the demonstrations today and to the general strike in general?
I learned from the mayor of Sakhnin and other officials that the police from yesterday have been pressuring the officials or the organizers to calm the masses. And of course, the anger was so intense, nobody could really stop the anger that this new wave of attacks on businesses generated. So the demand is to stop protecting the criminals, to end this phenomenon. This has become an existential threat to the Palestinians. Everybody feels unsafe, and many people, as I said, leave the country. So, and the demonstration ended. There were also a limited tension between the police and demonstrations. At the end of the demonstrations, the organizers, the Palestinian organizers, kept the youth. There was angry a group of youth that wanted to clash with the police, but it ended peacefully. But it seems that we don't know how the police will react when the demonstrations will continue to take place, and when also other steps, more radical or militant steps, will be decided on by the leadership.
Thank you. Mary?
Okay. So there are a couple of other things. There's somebody's asked a question about BDS. It's sort of made a comment about the BDS over the last years, but wondering how has the BDS campaign helped so far? Is that in relevant for you at the moment, Awad?
You ask for the Palestinians in general, not only for Palestinians in Israel.
Yes. So the question is, since October 2023, the campaign has made great advances, but in parallel with ever-intensive repression and dispossession within Palestine, including 48 Israel. So far, how has the BDS campaign helped?
I can say that they have contributed concretely to the struggle inside the Green Line. But the role of the BDS is very important outside, very important. And I think the BDS is the only representative body which is inclusive. I mean that, the division within the Palestinian national movement is so huge and already entrenched. But the BDS, there is consensus amongst Palestinians about the BDS. But the BDS is not claiming leadership of the Palestinian people. It's a strategy to boycott Israel, to isolate Israel. And they are doing a great job. And this is one of the strategies that are left as such after the genocide, because inside the Green Line, after genocide, because October 7, in fact, could not change the balance of forces. But no doubt that it has isolated Israel. It has caused a great damage to the international standing of Israel. And the fruit will be felt on the long run, not now. So the BDS is still, needs to be supported, not to be consolidated. And we know that there has been recently a debate about some aspects of the work of the BDS, but still the BDS is a very important body.
Thank you. Somebody says that from the drop site news, they're hearing that there are aerial photos showing the IS clearing a huge expanse of land in South Gaza to be used for housing, massive roundup of Gazans. Do you know about this, Awad? Is this a valid observation?
Could you again
it says from drop site news, someone has seen aerial photos showing the IS clearing a huge expanse of land in South Gaza, i.e. to be with the purpose of using it for housing and a massive roundup of Gazans. Do you know anything about that? Have you heard that?
No, I haven't followed this fact.
Okay, thank you. With the demonstrations, are you joined by Israeli Jews on these demonstrations in Israel?
Yeah. Today I couldn't see Israelis today, but there was demonstrations 2 months ago. There were, in fact, a pretty good number of Israeli Jews who took part. And I'm not saying they are still in the margin of the society, but it's very important that we have anti-racist Jews or anti-colonial Jews to be with us, and that's very important for us.
Thank you. Somebody say, thank you very much for this talk. And can you ask, I would like to ask about what's happening in the discussion between Balad and Hadash. This person has said, that in Northern Ireland, the IRA refused and still refuses to come to the British House of Commons. Is that right? As it refuses to give succor to the British Empire. Has this policy been discussed by these parties? Surely the Knesset is totally useless.
This is a very complex question, and Palestinians in Israel really are under are living a very complex reality, and the choices are limited. The discussion of the Knesset elections has been always there and has been always around, and Balad and Hadash both are taking part in the Knesset elections. But Abna al-Balad, a movement that was established in 1972, is still boycotting the Knesset elections. And I myself was a leader in the Abna al-Balad, not since 1972 because I was still a child, but I became a Deputy Secretary General in the 80s. And then in the 90s, after Oslo, we built Balad Party, the Jammu Party, and we thought that it was time, to change our position on the Knesset, not because we believe the Knesset, not because we want to give legitimacy to the state of Israel, but because we thought that most Palestinians have become used, to take part in the Knesset after many decades of living under Israeli system. So we thought that we could go to the Knesset and challenge the Jewish character of the state from within. Before, we used to challenge it from outside, to fight Zionism as a colonial movement. But then when Oslo was signed, and that was a stab in our back as Palestinians and Israel, because we were excluded from Oslo. We were not considered part of the conflict, or even part of the solution. So, and a few years later, voices again were raised, calling for the boycott of elections. But now, after the genocide, and after the fact that the balance of forces have not changed, and the contrary, Israel has come out as a triumphant of this war. So, and Palestinians in Israel really are left with very few tools, to struggle and to maintain their existence even. So now most Palestinians even call for political parties to run in the Knesset elections in a unified list. And very few people who raise their voices, to boycott the Knesset. This is a contradiction, or even a paradox, that you don't believe in Israel because it is a colonial state and a genocidal state, but at the same time, because you want to maintain your survival. So you are left with very limited tools, to impact your life.
There's another question here. So under the a repression of Palestinian voices, even within Israel, and silencing of solidarity, how are we going to join forces with the one democratic state in Israel and Palestine? With Trump's board of peace, states are joining more for the real estate potential rather than freedom for Gaza and Palestine.
Yeah, this is a very difficult situation. Most Palestinians now, in fact, the priority of most of the Palestinians is survival, and to protect their social cohesion. And some forces have been trying and attempting to bring unity to the Palestinian national movement, because even after 2 years of genocide, the Palestinian national movement is still divided. There are joint initiatives which have emerged during the last 2 years, and we still don't have fruit. There is an attempt to build a third party outside the traditional structures of the Palestinian national movement. Besides Hamas and Fatah. So as for the One Democratic Party, One Democratic State campaign also is living and facing such a situation where it has to focus now on awareness raising and creating a hardcore of people who will advocate for one state. This takes time, and I think that the solution is farther than it was before the war. But we still believe that there is no other option than to keep going, to keep advocating for one state, and to keep organizing and strategizing, and also engage in alliance building.
Thank you. Is it possible, sort of, to generally speaking, to sum up the attitude of the 1948 Palestinians towards the Palestinian Authority and Hamas?
Yeah, it is opinions are divided. I mean, Palestinians are divided over these forces, but most of the Palestinians inside the Green Line are very critical of the Palestinian Authority. As for Hamas, even those who are not religious, who are not affiliated ideologically with Hamas, they think that Hamas is a national liberation movement. Most Palestinians believe that Hamas is a national liberation movement, even if many of them disagree with its ideology. Because Fatah before Hamas was also targeted and described as a terrorist organization, which is a secular. So this is why people do not, I mean, most Palestinians do not condemn Hamas, do not think that Hamas is a terrorist organization. And but they are very critical of some of them are critical of Hamas because they don't absolve it from responsibility for failing to unite with the rest of the Palestinians. So Palestinians now inside the Green Line, most of them, according to the polls, still believe in the two-state solution. This doesn't mean that they really believe in that this is possible, but they think that this is more realistic. But the number of people who support the one-state solution has risen, no doubt, because until a decade ago, the one-state solution was a taboo for intellectuals and for politicians. Really, it was not easy for us, I mean, to raise this issue before politicians and many intellectuals. It's no longer a taboo. It has become part of the mainstream discourse.
Thank you. There's another person who's talking about what's going on over here and asks, are you aware of the demonstrations in the UK led by Palestine Action? Many of its members are on remand in prison and so on, and some have been on hunger strike for more than 70 days, and one of whom still remains. So they're doing their best to be in solidarity and want to know of their commitment and solidarity with, and want you to know of their commitment and solidarity with you. Have you heard about all that, Awad?
Sure.
Yes.
I feel very sorry. I feel sad, really. I'm keeping on. I mean, empathy and solidarity with them released soon, no doubt. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any sign that Israelis fear the reaction of the Iranians to any attack by the US? This person is saying all analysts say it will be devastating, and noticeably more of them are leaving, as you've mentioned earlier.
What again?
Israelis' fear of an attack of an Iranian attack or attacks by the US on the Iranians.
Yeah.
So the question is there any sign that Israelis fear the reaction of the Iranians to any attack by the US? And noticeably signs of them leaving.
People, I mean, have been leaving. I mean, since October 7, tens of thousands of people have left Israel. And as for Iranians, sure, then some of the, I mean, great or large sections of the Israelis are afraid of attack. But I can't see any concrete signs, but we read in the news, I mean, the way they think. But, the majority of the Israelis and all the elites, or the ruling elites, believe that they have the ability to respond and to attack Iran or to defeat Iran. But, in the last attempt to attack Iran, there was a retreat on the part of the Israelis mainly. They felt that they are not qualified enough, I mean, to launch an attack on Iran. So we don't know how things will develop in the future, but no doubt that there is fear within large sections of the Israelis except especially when they witness that Iran could, reach Israel and inflict damage, despite the imbalance of forces between the two sides.
Thank you. Could you tell us whether Palestinians are ever able to get news of the views of their leaders who are actually in prison now?
And this will have to be the last question.
Yeah, they get some from lawyers, in fact, but very limited information. You mean the leaders in the prison, right? Palestinian leaders in prison?
Yeah.
Yes. We from time to time we get news from lawyers, and there's the conditions are horrible. Under the because Ben Gvir, who is the Minister of Interior Security, is just avenging sadist. Doing sadist practices against the leaders, even the Marwan al-Barghouthi. This is unprecedented. The way Palestinian prisoners are treated is unprecedented in the history of the Palestinian struggle. And it doesn't seem that there is in sight, any solution for this issue. And we hope, but I feel that, of course, at the end, I would say that despite all the dark side of the reality that we are living in, Palestinians will continue, and prisoners, to fight and adhere to their right to self-determination and their right to fight the occupation. Although myself, I think that Palestinians will make a shift in the methods of struggle. I think they, in the current situation, they will adopt more popular and civil resistance rather than armed resistance. In 20 years from now and 15 years from now, if this kind of resistance would not yield fruit, I believe that the next generation will become maybe more militant, more radical, and even more extreme against this genocidal regime.
Thank you. Goodness, we're nearly at the end of the hour allocated for this webinar, but we started a little bit late. So I want to bring in one of the questions. We have more. The other questions, we'll have to figure out how to get them to Awad for a response. But this big question is, how can we take advantage of the massive shift in worldwide public opinion against Israel and in support of Palestinians in order to translate this into meaningful political action? So in your opinion, Awad, can you give us your thoughts on this? And then I must proceed to the announcements. So Awad, final thoughts, including your response to this question.
First of all, I would say that the global solidarity movement is the strongest ally of the Palestinian struggle now. We are discussing, we as Palestinians, intellectuals, activists, and leaders who are independent of the both political parties, both Fatah and Hamas, is how to invest or to capitalize on this global solidarity. And it is, and unfortunately, we don't have a unified organization among Palestinians that can represent most of the Palestinians. And this is the biggest challenge before the forces that are trying to build a third party. The work is in progress. We are not desperate. We are not giving into despair. We are trying really to create something new. And we believe that a new generation and a new political force is going to emerge and to be born. I don't know when, but that requires a lot of work, a lot of deep thinking and strategizing. So in the meantime, what is taking place globally is very important. It should continue. And all those who are involved there should not distract from this struggle because of the Palestinian Authority, which is a structural obstacle before the unity of the Palestinians and before liberation even. So, and I would end by thanking you for your solidarity, for what all you have been doing for this just cause.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Awad. I think we all wish we'd been able to see your face, your speaking to us, rather than just a photo. But my golly, your words were powerful. And we do appreciate what you've brought to us tonight with that added insight from inside 48. Now, I would like Malcolm to please bring up the slides that we're using as I bring this webinar to a close. Okay, there we go. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are very grateful to all of you for attending this webinar and with this special welcome to those who've come for the very first time. We hope you will continue to remain engaged with ICAHD. Check out our website. We have a wealth of information on it, from maps, photos, previous webinars, other Jeff Helper's monthly updates, so much there. Check us out. We have support groups in other countries as well. Here in the UK, we send out monthly newsletters, action bulletins with guidance on strategic activities for you to take. And you can sign up from the homepage on the website. We also have social media platforms, and we're very excited about the newly launched Instagram account. So we're there as well as Facebook and Blue Sky and X. Next slide, please. The next activity that we're calling for people to attend is the National Demonstration for Palestine. It will be on Saturday, the 31st in London. We'll be gathering from noon. ICAHD UK assembles with the Jewish Bloc, which will be the southwest corner of Russell Square, and we will be marching to Whitehall. So please come be with other like-minded people in this march. You know, we are there demonstrating we will not remain silent as this terrible genocide and everything associated with it continues. So be with us, make new friends, and find strength by coming out. And it helps to really empower one to continue in the struggle. And then the final slide is about our study tours. So we provide 11-day-long issue-based study tours, which are based in Bethlehem and then in Nazareth. We have more than 30 encounters, daily debriefing sessions, and during these tours, participants also have the opportunity to meet with Awad, have even longer with him, which is a real privilege for us. So please come along. The next tour is in May. We had 2 tours last year. We were safe the entire time. We reached all of our destinations, and it's really vital that we, take that step of solidarity by going over and meeting with the Palestinians because they feel so utterly abandoned by this time. They can watch the marches, but my golly, their daily lives are about survival, as Awad said. So it helps if we can go there to strengthen them. demonstrating they are not forgotten. We understand them, and we are with them in the struggle. So that's it. That's the final slide. And I want to thank, first of all, Awad Abdelfattah for coming and spending time with us this evening after such a tiring day. This webinar has been recorded. It'll be posted to our website. It will be sent directly to all the people who registered for this event, but we hope you will seek it out and then pass on the link to other people in your network. So thanks to each and every one of you who joined us tonight. It's wonderful to see you, and we hope we'll see you again soon. Thank you so much, and goodbye.